Cancer. There is a particular kind of declaration that one person makes about another, sometimes out loud and sometimes only in their own interior, that I want to walk you through because something like it is being made about you right now. The declaration is the kind that occurs when a person has assessed all the variables of a difficult situation and has concluded that the variables do not change the outcome they want. They want you in their life. They have considered the alternatives. They have considered the obstacles. They have considered what it would cost them to keep you and what it would cost them to lose you. The conclusion they have reached is that losing you is not acceptable. The unacceptability is producing a kind of firmness in them that goes beyond preference. It has become a settled position. They are not interested in negotiating away from this position. They are interested in finding ways to make the practical realities support what they have decided. I want to describe what this firmness feels like from the inside of the person who has it. The firmness is not anxious. It is not desperate. It is more like the calm of someone who has done their thinking and has arrived at a conclusion they can stand by. The thinking has been thorough. They have not arrived at this position lightly. They have considered, perhaps for longer than you realize, what they actually want in their life, and they have concluded that you are central to it. The centrality is what has produced the firmness. People do not become firm about peripheral things. They become firm about what they have identified as essential. They have identified you as essential. I want to address what may be complicating the situation, because the title of this reading suggests there are complications. There is some element of the practical situation between you that has not yet been resolved, that may involve other parties, that requires a creative approach to make the configuration work. The complications are real. They have been part of why the situation has not yet settled into a clear and uncomplicated form. But the person we are discussing has been working through how to address the complications, and they are arriving at solutions that they are prepared to implement. The solutions may be unconventional. They may involve arrangements that you would not have predicted, but the solutions are workable. They reflect this person's willingness to be flexible about the form, as long as the substance, which is your continued presence in their life, is preserved. I want to take a moment to address you, because you are about to be informed of the firmness and the solutions, and your response to the informing will be yours to determine. There may be a part of you that finds the firmness moving. Being wanted at this level with this degree of clarity is not a common experience. The wanting addresses something that may have been operating quietly in your awareness. The hope that someone would value you to this extent. The hope has been quiet. The arrival of the wanting may make the hope more visible to you than it has been. Allow the visibility. The hope was valid. The arrival is the answer to it. There may also be a part of you that has questions about the practical solutions that are being proposed. The questions are reasonable. Unconventional arrangements require careful consideration. You do not have to accept the proposed solutions just because they are being offered. You can engage with what is being proposed, ask questions, propose modifications, decline elements that do not work for you. The negotiation is part of how the actual configuration gets developed. The person making the proposals will be receptive to your input. They are not approaching this as a take it or leave it proposition. They are approaching it as a starting point for a conversation that you and they will conduct together. I want to share something about the third party who is part of the proposed configuration. The third party is part of this person's existing life in some way. The exact nature of the connection is theirs to explain, but what I can tell you is that the third party is not something that can be removed from the equation. The third party is a fixed element. The challenge has been figuring out how to keep you in their life, given that the third party is also a fixed element. The solution they have arrived at involves all three of you finding a workable arrangement. The arrangement may not be what either of you would have chosen if you were designing from scratch, but it is what is actually available, given the real circumstances. I want to address something specific about how to think about the proposed arrangement. Conventional arrangements work for some people in some situations. Less conventional arrangements work for other people in other situations. The question is not whether the proposed arrangement is conventional, but whether it can produce a life that is good for everyone involved. The capacity to produce a good life for everyone involved depends on a number of factors, including the willingness of all parties to engage with the arrangement honestly, the underlying compatibility of the relationships, and the practical workability of the day to day logistics. These factors can be assessed only through engagement with the specifics. The engagement is what is being invited. This is Cancer Tarot, and I want to slow down here because the situation is complex and deserves careful consideration rather than rushed response. Take a moment to register that you are being offered something that is being offered with significant commitment, even if the form of the offering involves complications you would not have chosen. The commitment is real. The complications are also real. Both need to be held in your assessment of the situation. Holding both produces a more accurate response than collapsing onto either alone would produce. I want to share something about why this person is proposing what they are proposing. They are proposing it because they have concluded that this is the way to keep you in their life, given the real constraints of their situation. They are not proposing it because it is ideal. They are proposing it because it is what is workable. The willingness to propose a workable but imperfect arrangement, rather than insisting on an ideal that is not actually available, is itself a sign of their maturity. People who can only operate in ideal conditions do not build sustainable relationships in adult life. Adult life involves working with what is actually available. This person is willing to work with what is actually available. The willingness is a quality you can rely on. I want to address what your own work in, considering this is going to involve. You will need to assess whether the proposed arrangement is something you can actually live in over time. The assessment requires honesty with yourself about what you can sustain. Some arrangements look workable in the abstract, but produce strains in practice. Other arrangements look strange in the abstract, but turn out to be genuinely sustainable. The distinction can be made only through careful consideration of the specifics. The consideration takes time. You can give it the time it needs. You do not have to decide quickly. I want to share an orientation about how to approach the consideration. Consider the actual daily life that would result from the arrangement. What would mornings look like? What would your daily routines involve? How would space be divided? How would conflicts be addressed? How would your individual needs be respected within the shared configuration? These practical questions are not minor. They are the substance of how the arrangement would actually function. Without addressing them, the arrangement remains theoretical. With them addressed, you can make an informed decision about whether to proceed. I want to mention something specific about the people involved. The person who is making the proposal has thought about these questions. They have considered the practical realities. They have ideas about how the arrangement could work, even if those ideas need refinement through conversation with you. The third party may also have considered these questions or may need to be brought into the conversation in their own way. The consideration of practical realities is one of the markers of a proposal that is being offered in good faith. If the proposal involved no practical consideration, it would not be a serious proposal. The seriousness of the consideration is what makes the proposal worth engaging with. I want to address something about your own boundaries. Whatever arrangement you ultimately agree to or do not agree to, the boundaries that protect your well-being need to be respected. You can engage with the proposed arrangement only on terms that honor what you need. If the arrangement, as proposed, does not honor what you need, you can propose modifications. If the modifications are not accepted, you can decline the arrangement. The declining is not a failure. It is the appropriate response to a configuration that does not actually serve you. The serving of your needs is non-negotiable. The form through which the serving is accomplished is more flexible. I want to share something specific about the kinds of arrangements that work for some people in situations like this one. There are arrangements where multiple parties share a household while maintaining their distinct relationships. There are arrangements where the shared household is temporary while a transition is being made. There are arrangements where the household structure is more complex than the conventional model, but where each relationship has its own clear contours. The possibilities are wide. The wideness is part of what makes the consideration interesting. You and the others involved can construct the arrangement that best serves all of you, drawing on the wide possibilities. I want to take a moment to address what may be your concern about how this situation reflects on the relationship with the person who is making the proposal. There may be a part of you that wonders whether their willingness to engage in an unconventional arrangement reflects a problem with their commitment to you specifically. The wondering is reasonable. I want to address it. Their willingness to engage in an unconventional arrangement is not a problem with their commitment to you. It is, in some ways, evidence of the strength of their commitment. They are willing to navigate complications rather than walking away. They are willing to be creative about form in order to preserve substance. The substance is their relationship with you. The form is whatever can be made to work. The willingness to prioritize substance over form is a sign of substantial commitment, not a sign of compromised commitment. This is Cancer Tarot, and I want to share an observation about commitment in unconventional configurations. The configurations work when they work because all parties involved are committed to making them work. They require more communication than conventional configurations require. They require more flexibility. They require more awareness of how the various relationships are functioning. They also produce, when they function well, a quality of conscious relating that conventional configurations sometimes lack. The conscious relating is one of the features that some people find rewarding about unconventional arrangements. The features are not for everyone, but for those for whom they work, the rewards are real. I want to share something specific about the long arc of arrangements like this. If you choose to engage with the proposed arrangement and it works out, you will look back at this period as the beginning of something that, while initially uncertain, developed into a sustainable configuration that served everyone involved. The serving will not be without challenges. All configurations have challenges, but the challenges in this configuration would be the kind that can be addressed through ongoing communication and mutual willingness. The capacity to address challenges through these means is what determines whether unconventional configurations succeed over time. If you choose not to engage with the proposed arrangement, you will move forward into a different configuration of your life. The different configuration would not include this specific person in the way the proposed arrangement would include them. Whether that is a loss for you depends on factors that include how much this specific person means to you and what alternatives are available. You can make the assessment based on your own honest evaluation. Either decision is workable, depending on what serves your actual life. I want to mention something specific about what the third party in the proposed arrangement is likely to be like in terms of how they will affect the situation. The third party is someone who has been in this person's life for some time. They are not a new addition. They are part of the existing fabric. Their inclusion in the arrangement is not optional from this person's perspective. The third party may bring their own qualities, their own needs, their own contributions to the arrangement. Some of those qualities may benefit you. Some may require accommodation. The relationship between you and the third party will be its own thing, distinct from your relationship with the person making the proposal. I want to share an orientation about how to develop the relationship with the third party if you proceed with the arrangement. Approach the third party with openness and respect while also maintaining your own boundaries. The third party is in a situation that may also be unfamiliar. They may have their own concerns about how the arrangement will work. Mutual respect between you and the third party is one of the foundations of the arrangement's sustainability. Without it, the arrangement tends to develop tensions that compromise everyone's well-being. With it, the arrangement can support all parties in living lives that are good for them. I want to take a moment to address a specific feature of how the proposed arrangement may affect your daily life. You will not have the conventional configuration of a couple in shared space. You will have something more complex. The more complex configuration involves more variables to manage. It also offers more possibilities for support. more diverse perspectives, more shared resources. The trade offs are real on both sides. The trade offs can be assessed only through living the actual arrangement for a period of time. The assessment may produce, over time, a clear sense of whether the arrangement is good for you. The clearness will inform any subsequent decisions about whether to continue or to modify. I want to mention something specific about the commitment that is being offered to you. It is the commitment of someone who is choosing you, with full awareness of the complications, and who is prepared to do the work that the arrangement requires. The work will be ongoing. It will not be a one-time effort. It will be a sustained engagement with the practical realities of how the arrangement functions. The person making the offer has indicated through the very making of the offer that they are prepared to do the sustained engagement. The indication is itself meaningful. It tells you something about their character. I want to share something specific about your own character, because your willingness to even consider what is being proposed says something about you. You are someone who can engage with complexity rather than requiring simplicity. You are someone who can see past conventional forms to evaluate substance. You are someone whose interior life is developed enough to consider arrangements that would overwhelm people with less developed interiors. These qualities are valuable. They are part of what makes you someone whom the person we are discussing has chosen. The choosing is responsive to who you actually are, including these qualities. This is Cancer Tarot, and I want to address what I think is the most important thing to hold throughout this consideration. The most important thing is not the specific form of the proposed arrangement. The most important thing is whether the underlying relationship that the arrangement would support is what you actually want. If the underlying relationship is what you want, then forms that can support it are worth exploring, even if the forms are unconventional. If the underlying relationship is not what you want, then no form, including the most conventional, will produce a sustainable configuration. So the question to sit with is the underlying question. Do you want this person in your life in the way that the proposed arrangement would have them in your life? The question is not asking you to evaluate the form. It is asking you to evaluate the substance. The substance is what determines whether any form is worth pursuing. If the substance is right, the form can be developed. If the substance is wrong, no form will rescue it. I want to share an orientation about how to sit with the underlying question. Allow yourself to imagine the actual experience of having this person in your life on a continuing basis, regardless of the specific form. Imagine the daily texture of being in connection with them. Imagine how you would feel waking up knowing they are there. Imagine what you would gain and what you would give up. The imagining is not idle. It is your nervous system telling you what it knows about the situation. Trust what arises. The arising is information. I want to mention something about a possible response. There may be a part of you that finds itself drawn to the underlying relationship, even though the form is complicated. The drawing is information. It tells you that the substance is real. The substance being real does not yet tell you what to do, but it tells you that the situation is worth engaging with seriously, rather than dismissing because of the form. The serious engagement is the appropriate response to a real underlying relationship, even when the practical context is complex. I want to share something specific about what may unfold if you proceed with the arrangement. The first period would involve significant adjustment for all parties. The adjustment would not be smooth. There would be moments of friction, moments of uncertainty, moments of wondering whether the arrangement was the right choice. The uncertainty is normal for the early stages of unconventional arrangements. It would diminish over time, as everyone involved found their rhythm within the configuration. The finding of the rhythm is part of what makes the configuration sustainable. I want to address something about your role in making the arrangement work. If you proceed, you would have a real role. You would not be a passive recipient of arrangements made by others. You would be an active co-creator of the configuration. Your input would shape how the arrangement actually functions. Your voice would matter. The other parties would need your voice in order to develop an arrangement that works for everyone. So if you proceed, Proceed knowing that your active participation is required. The participation is not optional. It is part of what makes the arrangement work. I want to mention something specific about boundaries within the arrangement. You would need to be clear about what you need to maintain your own well being, even within a shared configuration. The needs include things like personal space, time alone, certain rhythms of how the relationships function, certain expectations about communication. The needs are not unreasonable, they are the basic requirements for anyone living in any configuration. Communicating them clearly is part of how you protect your own well being within the arrangement. The protection is not selfish, it is responsible. Without it, the arrangement would compromise you, which would not serve anyone. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the courage it requires to even consider an arrangement of this kind. Conventional arrangements are simpler. They require less explanation, less defense, less navigation of social complexity. To consider an unconventional arrangement requires the willingness to engage with what is actually true for you, even if what is true is not the easiest path. The willingness is a form of courage. It is one of the qualities that has been developing in you through everything you have lived. The development is now being tested in this specific situation. You can pass the test by continuing to be honest with yourself about what you want, regardless of what the conventional expectations would suggest. I want to share something about what your life will look like in the period after you make your decision, whichever way it goes. If you proceed with the arrangement, your life will be different from what it has been. The difference will include the daily presence of multiple people in shared space, with the various relationships requiring ongoing attention. The difference will also include the rewards of having chosen a configuration that matches your actual situation, rather than performing a conventional configuration that did not fit. The matching is one of the rewards. If you decline the arrangement, your life will also be different. The difference will be the absence of this specific person in the close way the arrangement would have provided. The difference will include the simplicity of a more conventional configuration, which has its own kind of clarity. The clarity is also a reward, depending on what you actually want. Both options have their rewards. Both options have their costs. The choice between them depends on your honest assessment of what you actually want, considering all the variables. The assessment is yours to make. You have the capacity to make it well. Here on Cancer Tarot, the closing emphasis I want to leave with you is this. You are wanted at a level that goes beyond preference. The wanting is firm. The firmness is one of the most significant features of the situation. People are not usually wanted with this kind of firmness. The wanting itself is a gift, regardless of what you ultimately decide about the proposed arrangement. You can receive the wanting with appreciation while still making your own decision about how to engage with what is being offered. The receiving and the deciding are separate. The receiving acknowledges what is being given. The deciding determines what you do with it. Both are appropriate. Both honor the situation. I want to mention something about the person who is making the offer. They are someone who has decided that you are central to their life. The decision is not casual. It is the result of significant consideration. The consideration has produced the firmness. The firmness is producing the unconventional proposal. The proposal is an expression of how serious the commitment is. The seriousness is what you are encountering. You are not at the mercy of this situation. You have your own agency. You can engage or not engage. You can negotiate terms. You can decline elements. You can propose modifications. The agency is yours. The exercising of it is the appropriate response to being offered something significant. I want to acknowledge that the situation is complex. The complexity is real. The complexity does not have a single right answer. The right answer depends on factors that only you have full access to. Trust your own assessment. The assessment will produce, in its own time, a decision that you can stand by. Whichever decision you make, the making of it will move your life forward in a direction that is aligned with what is actually true for you. The alignment is what matters most. The form is secondary. You are loved. The loving is being expressed in a form that includes complications. but the loving itself is real. You can hold the reality of the loving while making your own choices about the form. The holding is the practice. The practice is gentle. The practice will produce, over time, the configuration of your life that fits you. Whether the configuration includes this specific person or whether it includes other elements that match you differently. Either way, the configuration will be yours. You will have chosen it. The choosing is the foundation of a life that is genuinely lived. Walk into the consideration period with the awareness that you are wanted, that you have a choice, and that the choice you make will be yours. The choice will determine the next phase of your life. You have the capacity to make it well. The capacity is in you. The exercising of it will be sufficient. The sufficient will produce the right next steps. The right next steps will lead to the life that is genuinely yours. You are not obligated to accept anything that does not fit you. You are not obligated to decline anything that does fit you. The fit is what matters. The fit can be assessed only through your own honest reflection. The reflection is the practice. The practice will produce the answer in its own time, with its own particular form. Trust the practice. Trust yourself. Trust the unfolding. The unfolding will support whichever direction you choose to move in. The supporting is reliable. The reliability is one of the foundations of your continuing life. Receive what is being offered. Consider it with care. Decide based on what is true for you. Live forward from the decision. The forward will be good, regardless of which direction you choose. The good is what is meant for you. The meant for you is approaching, in the form that your honest engagement with the situation will produce. Walk forward into it. The walking is gentle. The walking is yours. The reading is closing. The choosing is opening. The opening is yours to enter.